Our group flew into Stuttgart, Germany, and took a charter bus south. At Triberg we saw two passenger trains, the first pulled by a Class V80 1,000-horsepower diesel hydraulic locomotive, the second by a V200 2,000-horsepower diesel hydraulic. The man with the white hair is Bill Walthers. He was about 75 years old at the time. We had trouble keeping up with him. Here is the German Federal Railroad four-wheel rail bus for branch line service. They were noted for a rough ride. We had a few days in Lucerne, Switzerland. Here's a little activity at the main station. Most of the Swiss Federal Railway system is standard gauge, but there is one meter gauge line from Lucerne to Interlaken. Here is a meter gauge train leaving Lucerne. I had been told the Swiss Federal Railways had been completely electrified. The second day I went out early to get a few pictures, and found this steam locomotive doing a little switching. Switzerland is not flat. A number of ways have been developed to get up and down the hills. One is the funicular or cable railway, as here at the Dietschberg. Two cars are connected by a cable wrapped around a drum at the top of the hill. One is pulled up as the other is let down. One day, Lynn Westcott and two others took a side trip to visit the Stansstad-Engelberg Railway, which was about to be modernized and extended. They were kind enough to let me go along. The Stansstad-Engelberg Bahn ran from a boat landing on Lake Lucerne to Engelberg, a distance of about 20 miles. The modernized line would be extended 10 miles to Lucerne by a connection to the Swiss Federal Narrow Gauge Line, get new equipment, new color scheme, and a new name, the Lucerne-Engelberg Bahn. Note that there are two overhead wires, and the pantograph is split in two. This is a three-phase AC power system. All in all, this was a museum piece about to disappear. There is a segment where the grades are way too steep for an adhesion line. Separate locomotives are used to handle the cars on the rack section. This is one of several rack lines in Switzerland with maximum grades of 25 or 26%, though the Pilatusbahn puts them all to shame with a staggering 48% grade. This is the terminal at Engelberg. After a few days in Lucerne, we went to Zurich. Our rooms in the hotel overlooked a trolley line and a trolley bus line. Swiss Federal Railroad equipment carries two and sometimes three sets of identification: SBB for the German Schweizerische Bundesbahn, FFS for the French equivalent, and sometimes CFF for the Italian. There are a lot of these six-wheel side rod switchers in Switzerland. Some standard gauge, some narrow gauge. We finally boarded the Trans-Europe Express for Lugano, Italy by way of the Gotthard Tunnel. This is the engineer's control stand. At Taffasen, the track is tied in a bow knot. You pass the town, go through a tunnel, pass the town going in the opposite direction, dive into another tunnel, and pass the town a third time going in your original direction. Usually the weather is different from one end of the Gotthard Tunnel to the other. It was raining on the north side of the tunnel, so the sun was shining on the south side. We left the Trans-Europe Express at Lugano in southern Switzerland and took a bus ride along beautiful Lake Lugano and up into the Alps to Pontresina far to the east. I am not sure I ever heard this pronounced correctly, so I won't try. I think in German it is Rettich. We rode out of Pontresina on a line with numerous curves and spiral tunnels, finally ending up in Chur in eastern Switzerland, where the meter gauge lines over the high Alps meet the Swiss federal standard gauge. We went west out of Chur toward the Gotthard Pass. The next morning I took movies of trains on the Gotthard line from my hotel room in Wassen. Two levels of track were visible above the hotel. The locomotives were Class AE66, CC electrics rated at 6,000 horsepower. The traffic is so heavy on this line that freight and passenger trains must run at the same speed. We then went up the Gotthard Pass to Andermatt. There we got a glimpse of a Schulenenbahn train coming in from Göschenen, the north end of the Gotthard Tunnel. There we also saw a Furka Oberalp train starting up the face of the mountain to the east. That evening we arrived at the lower end of the Rothornbahn, just as the last trains of the day were coming down the mountain and being put away for the night. Interlaken has two stations, Interlaken Oost on the east side and Interlaken West on the west side. The stations are about a mile apart. The Bern-Lechberg-Simplon-Bahn comes in from the west, though some Swiss Federal trains also use the line. The Swiss Federal meter gauge line, the Brunig line, comes in from Lucerne to the east. The Bern-Oberland Bahn goes south to connections to the Jungfraujoch, the highest station in Europe at 11,333 feet above sea level. This is a German locomotive leased by the Swiss Federal Railways because of a shortage of locomotives. The Swiss did not like these locomotives because they required a two-man crew. Swiss locomotives are equipped with a vigilance control, which allows one-man operation. This was another day when I went exploring by myself, this time just around Interlaken. The blue and cream two-car sets are BLS Blue Arrow trains. They have a pair of first-class seats at each end which are perfect for rail fans. The Bernese-Oberland Bahn has 9 of these little four-wheel locomotives. The BOB starts out from Interlaken on a level plain, surrounded by mountains. If you go to the Jungfraujoch, you change trains twice and climb over 9,700 feet in 20 miles. This is one of the Swiss Federal Brunig Line meter gauge trains starting for Lucerne. Interlaken also has a funicular, which runs up to Harderkolm, the top of the ridge north of town. This has an average grade of 59% and even a tunnel. From Interlaken we took the Bernlechberg Simplon to Spitz and then Zweisimmen. There we connected with the meter gauge Montreux-Oberland-Berneuss. The MOB does not run through the wildest mountains, but it does reach an altitude of 4,163 feet. It also has the steepest adhesion line in Switzerland at 7.3%. It's interesting to watch the pantographs on the locomotives. Out in the country they are squeezed down close to the roofs of the cars, while in the stations the overhead is raised so the pans stand up high. We weren't exactly traveling at record speeds. We were going only a little faster than this cyclist. But then we were coming into a station. On arrival at Montreux, we crossed to an adjoining track and took the rack railroad up to Rochers-de-Naye. At almost 6,500 feet, that was the highest we'd been all day. Of course, although it was sunny down below, the top of the mountain was in the clouds, so there wasn't much of a view. The mountain railroads often run two or more trains on the same timetable slot. There isn't much danger. The train speeds are low, in this case about 6 miles an hour. Next we took a tour of the Chateau of Chalon and headed north to Basel. The cream and red car turned out to be the Waldenberger Bahn, which would be a subject for my next trip to Europe. France, Germany, and Switzerland come together at Basel. Here some of those non-existent Swiss steam locomotives are switching at the docks on the Rhine River. At Muttenz, just east of Basel, there is a major yard adjacent to the station. This switcher kept running up and down the yard, but never coupled to anything. Maybe it provided taxi service. Here is a good look at a Swiss crocodile. This is the German locomotive, class E91. The next stop was Paris, where we visited an engine terminal. There I ran out of movie film. Thus there are no more movies, although we did go on to England.